The sun dipped below the horizon. Shadows stretched long and thin across manicured lawns. A peaceful quiet settled over the neighborhood, the kind that usually signaled safety and comfort. But tonight, the stillness felt different. An unsettling tension hung in the air, a prickling premonition of something amiss.
Just the wind, boy.
Jack Taylor, walking his aging Labrador retriever Max, noticed the shift. The air felt heavier, the silence more profound. Max, usually eager to sniff every lamppost and bush, trotted nervously at his side, his tail tucked low. Jack patted the dog's head, trying to soothe his own growing unease.
Just the wind, boy,
he murmured, though he wasn't convinced himself. The streetlights flickered on, casting an orange glow across the empty sidewalks. Jack noticed the curtains drawn tight in the windows of every house, a stark contrast to the usual welcoming glow. A shiver ran down his spine. Even in the dimming light, something felt off, like the neighborhood itself was holding its breath. He quickened his pace, eager to get back to the familiarity of his own home. But as he rounded the corner onto his street, a faint whisper carried on the breeze sent a chill down his spine. Max whimpered, pressing close against Jack's leg. The hair on the back of Jack's neck stood on end. He was sure he wasn't alone. The whispers continued on subsequent nights, growing bolder, more insistent. Each evening as dusk settled, Jack would feel a growing sense of dread. Max would whine at the door, reluctant to go for their usual walk. But Jack, driven by a need to understand, would force himself and his loyal companion out into the growing darkness. The whispers seemed to slither from the shadows, clinging to the edges of his hearing. They were just at the edge of comprehension, tantalizingly close yet frustratingly unintelligible. They seemed to speak of sorrow, of rage, of a deep, unyielding hunger.
It's just the wind. It has to be.
Jack tried to rationalize them, blaming the wind, his imagination, anything but the terrifying truth that was slowly dawning on him. Max, his senses sharper than Jack's, would growl at seemingly empty corners, his hackles raised. He'd stop abruptly, refusing to move, his brown eyes wide with fear. Jack, his own heart pounding in his chest, would strain to hear what had spooked his dog, but the whispers remained just out of reach, a maddening symphony of hushed voices. One particularly unsettling evening, as they walked past the old gnarled oak tree at the end of the street, a gust of wind whipped through the branches, and Jack swore he heard his name, uttered in a mournful, drawn-out rasp.
Jack!
He stopped dead in his tracks, his blood turning to ice. Max let out a low growl, baring his teeth at the base of the tree. There was something there, Jack was sure of it, something unseen but malevolent. The whispers weren't the only strange occurrence plaguing the neighborhood. Strange symbols, crudely drawn in what looked like charcoal, began appearing on fences and sidewalks. Children's toys would move on their own in the dead of night. A palpable sense of dread hung over the community, a shared terror that tightened its grip with each passing day. Mrs. Carter, an elderly woman who lived alone at the edge of the woods, was the first to disappear. One day she was there, tending her rose bushes, her kind, wrinkled face beaming a greeting to Jack and Max as they passed.
Good evening, Jack.
The next she was gone, her house eerily silent, her roses wilting in the summer sun. The police searched but found no trace of her. The neighbors whispered amongst themselves, their fear palpable.
Did you hear Mrs. Carter is missing?
Some spoke of seeing strange lights in the woods, of hearing inhuman cries in the night. Others claimed that the whispers had grown louder, more insistent since Mrs. Carter's disappearance. Fear, like a virus, spread through the community, infecting everyone it touched. Parents kept their children indoors, neighbors avoided each other's eyes. The once peaceful suburb had become a prison of suspicion and terror, and at the heart of it all were the whispers, growing stronger with each passing day. The whispers here were louder, more insistent, seeming to emanate from the very trees themselves. The setting sun cast long shadows, twisting familiar shapes into menacing figures. The woods were dark and oppressive, the air thick with the smell of damp earth and decaying leaves. Armed with only a flashlight and his unwavering loyalty to his missing neighbor, he ventured into the woods that bordered their neighborhood, Max, his faithful companion, by his side. Jack, unable to ignore the growing sense of dread and the unanswered questions that plagued him, decided to investigate.
Come on, Max. We have to find out what's going on.
The whispers here were deafening, a cacophony of voices, all clamoring for his attention. He stumbled upon it almost by accident, an old well, hidden in the thicket of overgrown bushes. Jack, his heart pounding in his chest, pressed on, his flashlight beam cutting a shaky path through the oppressive darkness. They seemed to be leading him somewhere, urging him forward. As they ventured deeper into the woods, the whispers grew in intensity, swirling around them like a vortex of despair. Max whined, his tail tucked between his legs, but he didn't hesitate to follow Jack, his loyalty outweighing his fear.
Jack! Come closer!
Max barked a sharp, terrified sound and tried to pull Jack away, but Jack couldn't move.
You shouldn't have come here.
Jack's flashlight flickered and he felt a presence behind him, a shadowy figure lurking just out of sight.
What do you want from me?
The answer he feared was something he wasn't prepared to face.